everybody, thanks for watching. Today I'm going to share with you my 4 tips to making the perfect pork tenderloin. I am Sarah from Sarah's Sustainable Kitchen, where you and I take our weight loss journeys together in the kitchen. If you are new here, please hit that subscribe button, and if you find this video useful at all, would you mind sharing it with your friends and family? That would be awesome. Okay, so let's just jump right into it. So first I want to tell you that I'm not sharing with you the recipe of this pork tenderloin right now, but I will put it in the description of the video. I just want to kind of show you how I keep my pork juicy, because pork tends to dry out pretty easily. And I know I've had people message me and tell me that they're actually intimidated by pork. So I wanted to share with you my 4 tips. So tip number 1 is to, if at all possible, buy local. So this does a few things. 1, it keeps the money that you're spending in your community. It helps your local farmer, and you're gonna get a fresh, flavorful cut of meat. So buy local if at all possible. I do understand that it's not always, but if at all possible. Fun fact about my family is that our kids raise pork. And actually, the pork I'm going to be showing you, you see, was raised by my daughter. So tip number 1, buy local if possible. Tip number 2, and I think this is probably the most important thing I learned about pork, and it is to cook your meat at room temperature. This helps it cook evenly and won't dry it out. So tip number 2, room temperature. What I like to do is, first of all, you always let it thaw naturally, never force thaw it, or that will dry it out. So I pull it out, I'll season it up, and then I let it sit for about 30 minutes depending on the size, right? So don't force thaw it, and make sure that it's at room temperature, and that will help with the dryness because pork can get a little dry. So tip number 3, you're going to want to brown your pork tenderloin on both sides. So I use a cast iron skillet here, as you can see, to brown it and to cook it in at the same pan, the same skillet. So you're going to put some extra virgin olive oil in your pan. Not very much. Again, I will share the recipe in the description of the video. And then you're going to put it on your oven. So the thing about cast iron is it retains heat. So you don't want to crank it up and get it really hot and then brown it. You want to slowly heat up your pan and let it get an even heat before you brown your meat. So you're going to brown on both sides, usually about 2 minutes on each side, about the size that I'm doing. And I am doing about 1 pound of pork tenderloin today. That's what I've made. So make sure you brown it on both sides, and it's going to look golden brown, and it's going to look very good. So and set a timer, don't overdo it, okay? So tip number 4, speaking of not overdoing it, you're gonna wanna not overcook your pork, because again, it can dry out quite quickly. The perfect pork temperature is 145 degrees, so you're going to need a thermometer for that. I eyeball it now, but I've been cooking pork for a long time. So let's just recap real quick, shall we? So tip number 1, buy local if at all possible. Tip number 2, cook your pork at room temperature. So I'm gonna take my pork tenderloin here and I'm gonna put it in there. We'll just pretend that I'm browning it for time's sake. Okay, so it's all browned. I prefer to cook my pork with apples and onions. I just think it goes really good. So I'll take up some cut up apples and cut up onions, and I'll just spread it in the pan. Spread it all around and make it as even as I can. Okay. Remember, I've browned the meat, so I'm putting it all together, right? So tip number 3 was to brown our meat. And then we put whatever you want with it. You don't even have to put anything with it, but for this recipe, I'm putting apples and onions. Okay, and then I'm gonna top it with some crumbled bacon. So this just kind of adds an extra pop of flavor, but you don't have to do that if you don't want to. So I spread over my bacon over everything. Like that. And then my last little thing that I do that maybe a lot of people don't do is I take a lime and I squirt some lime juice. It just adds this pop, and I know these flavors sound strange together, but trust me, they're very good. So to wrap it up, those are my 4 tips to make a very juicy, yummy tenderloin, and let me pull out the one I've already made to show you. All right, so here's the one that I made earlier. Can you see? It looks very good. Very, very good. So if you have any questions, you can leave those in the description of the video. And again, I'll put this recipe in the description of the video. I hope that it was helpful, and I hope that you can learn to enjoy pork, because it is a very good meat when you cook it right.